Greetings, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. It's time for another episode of Treknicity Live. You know that show where I sit here and talk at you about stuff regarding Star Trek? You know that show, don't you? My name is Lars the Scenza, and I'm coming to you from somewhere beyond the cosmos, or perhaps maybe even Southern California. I'm not quite sure yet, but I'll figure it out. And as always on Treknicity Live, no topic is taboo, because pretty much I'll talk about anything. Just like this episode. This is one fishing from the bottom, isn't it? We're going to talk about photon torpedoes. Pew, 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 pew. You're thinking, how much can you talk about photon torpedoes? I'll have you know, okay? I will have you know that when I was a teenager and I was working at a movie theater, my boss and good friend Don and I sat, and it must have been at least an hour or two arguing how photon torpedoes actually move in space. So without further ado, let's get stuck straight into it. So, as you know, in Star Trek, there are basically, the Federation have two primary types of weapons. Those being the phasers and the photon torpedoes. Just like pretty much any naval kind of ship, they have torpedoes and then whatever. So, with phasers, they're just refocused beams of energy. They get their power from the warp engines, rah. Photon torpedoes is a little bit different. They are basically, they are torpedo shaped, and they are full of antimatter, and that is what causes the explosion, which causes the massive boom when a torpedo explodes. And now the area that we used to debate, okay, is not so much how powerful they were or how relevant they were or how good they were at what they did. Primarily what we talked about is how they moved through space, because technically I don't think there's any propulsion, like there aren't little micro warp drives or things of that nature on a photon torpedo. So one of the theories based on what we were doing or what we were talking about is that they kind of have some sort of internal gyroscope or gyro system that helps them recalibrate and turn in space, but I don't believe that. I don't know. I think really the thing is that one, they are ejected magnetically. So they are launched from the ship at a very, very high rate of speed. So of course, with that, you get the thing firing out really quickly. But how does it get to where it's going? So I think it's a guided beam that works to get it on target to where it needs to go. I could be wrong. Look, on this show, I pretty much talk about what I want to talk about and how I feel about stuff. So, who cares? I have another episode coming up here on Wednesday with my hetero life mate and fellow redshirt geek Patrick. We're going to be talking about Star Trek 3. Can you believe it? I mean, this is the third week of doing this already. This is crazy. Still have a long way to go, but still, I mean, that's a lot to take in, and there's a lot of Star Trek movies to watch, but it's not always a bad thing, except maybe when we get to Star Trek 5 and Star Trek Insurrection and Star Trek Nemesis and any of the Kelvin movies that might end up getting watched. I don't know. But anyways, I digress. I know I'm rambling this evening. With Star Trek, which was really so cool is that it took a lot of, I guess, more contemporary things at the time and brought them over and made them accessible, and so that we could relate to them as a weapon system, as a propulsion system, as ships having shields, that sort of stuff. So it was really kind of easy for us to really sink or get invested in or suspend disbelief pretty easily. Now, photon torpedoes, everybody has their own. Like, Klingons have torpedoes, the Federation has torpedoes. Romulans typically have like a kind of a plasma torpedo, which is very similar to the photon torpedo, but whatever. And I'm wondering how many times I can actually say the words photon torpedo in this episode, because I have said it a lot. I mean, we're talking about Photon Torpedoes. I could almost make a song out of it. I'm sure Patrick will. I'm pretty sure if he's watching, he'll probably bring it up when we go to record, and then let me know. So that being said, look, starship weaponry in Star Trek is kind of cool because it gives you a lot of stuff to kind of go, ooh, that's kind of neat. That's kind of ooh, But I've always been a lover of torpedoes because they pack the biggest wallop when it comes to starship weapons, or at least contemporary starship weapons, or not contemporary, sorry, conventional starship weapons. That being said, there really isn't a whole lot to talk about when it comes to Photon Torpedoes. I mean, I suppose I could talk about what they're made of, what I already did. They're torpedo shells with antimatter, which makes them go boom, which is cool. But ultimately, I just kind of wanted to throw a real simple episode together tonight. I've got a lot of going on right now. I've got of course the Star Trek 3 episode, which is going to get recorded before obviously Wednesday. But also this weekend I'll be at LA Comic-Con. And that is going to probably take up the Friday time slot that I would normally do. I'm going to try to get a video shot and get it in place, or get it ready and uploaded and such, so that we can watch it, over the weekend. On that note, I'm going to cut this episode really, really short. Not because I don't have much to say. It's just that Photon Torpedoes was kind of I'm going to reach down and grab something reach out into the air and grab something really fast. But if you have any ideas for stuff you want to talk about, please, leave a comment down below. Click like and subscribe so we can basically let you know what's going on when we do it. But ultimately, I will be back with probably some more interesting topics, especially as we get ramped up towards Discovery coming back. They had Star Trek Destination in Birmingham, UK this past weekend, so I'll be talking a little bit more about that as well. In the meantime, I am going to bid you farewell on this very, very short episode of Treknicity Live. Again, I have been your host, Lars Scenza. It has been my pleasure, and as always, rock out with your Spock out, my friends. Live long and prosper. Goodbye, folks.